I think it was around maybe 2015 or so where you kind of took an exit from the film world. Like, why'd you leave the film world? You have quite the filmography, but what's your favorite movie that you directed and why?
I think there are actually a few. I think Darfur, Attack on Darfur, the movie about in Sudan, what place there in Africa, was very brutal and but very good with Billy Zane, Edward Furlong, Cristiano Loken, where this journalist coming in a town and then like the Janjaweed coming in and say, "You leave, we kill everybody," right? So and then they go back and fight. So then they have like a whole shootout and. I think that movie is I think also the only movie I ever did, like maybe it was The South of Wall Street was Dominic Purcell, the movie too, where people were crying, where I made actually people getting real emotions, big emotions. The audience were really devastated watching that films. So that made me proud because normally I made more this kind of enjoyable genre films where you're not like I mean, you don't start crying because Blood Rain dies. I mean, and she did. So that's the saying, right? So it's like, and but I think my personal cult films, you can say, when I go to an whatever, like a fair, give interviews or sign DVDs, you can say half of the crowd, and I made 40 movies, yeah. But you can say half of the DVDs I sign is Rampage or Postal. So half of that. So it means these two movies have the biggest fan base, even if they were not like my biggest movies I did, but or my most successful movies also not. But they got the legs in the word of mouth later. You know, where people say, "Oh, you have to watch that movie. You have to watch that movie." So that's are the two movies. I think Postal because it was so ridiculous and over the top, and Rampage because it turned into this in a way a phenomenon because it reflects the cynical world we're living in a very, let's say, nihilistic way. You know, it doesn't try. Our hero is not a hero. He's a mass murderer, right? But he is in a world where it's even worse and where you don't even, you know, and where you feel like this kind of connection to him, even if he's making crime after crime after crime. And I think not a lot of movies got this kind of twist done, and people are fascinated by it.
Yeah, another similar one where a guy you shouldn't necessarily be rooting for, but you are sympathetic, and he's like an anti-hero of sorts, would be like Michael Douglas in Falling Down, for example. Would be
Yes.
another
Yeah.
example of I should be rooting for this guy, but I kind of am for whatever reason.
Yeah. That was exactly the thing. When I watched Falling Down, a lot of times I had this feeling in the when he's in the traffic jam, for example, right?
Oh yeah, great
Like,
scene. Yeah.
you know, or at McDonald's, we have 11:02, breakfast is over, right? And then you say, like, no, it's still there, just give it to me. No. So, and I think that was the genius of that movie because you could relate to a lot of things happening where you also want to get violent, where you also feel like, oh, fuck, you know. So, and that's the thing. And that was in my head when I developed, in a way, a Rampage. And I like movies like Seven, Memento, Usual Suspects, like movies they end how you never could guess. So that's my biggest, I think, problem now when you watch the movies. They're all totally predictable. I think that's one of the biggest, like, why the quality with all that streaming, the quality of the original movies, they're getting all through an algorithm and diversity right and all this stuff what they put on it, so it ends up with more of the same in most of the movies you watch, where you feel like, okay, I mean, I saw this coming after 5 minutes and then it came. So that's my biggest problem with a lot of movies getting out there today.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, I think it was around maybe 2015 or so where you kind of took an exit from the film world. Like, why'd you leave the film world?
Yeah, I did Rampage 3 and I felt, okay, Blockbuster is closing. like Best Buy, everybody was not carrying a lot of DVDs, Blu-rays anymore. That whole business went away. And at that time, there was no streaming in a way strong enough to compensate this. You
Mhm.
felt like, okay, I mean, I cannot, the 500,000 bucks I got from Blockbuster for movies are now 50,000 bucks I get from
Oh wow.
Amazon Prime, or and Netflix started up. I don't know, Netflix, that was the time when Netflix in a way started as a streaming. Before, I remember the Netflix was like Redbox, was like you can also get DVDs going.
Yeah, in the mail that was yeah.
Yes, the mail order. And so I felt like there is no replacement really of the video stores. And I felt empty in a way. And then I opened a restaurant in Vancouver. I wanted to do something completely different and got a
Okay.
German chef from Berlin to Vancouver. We opened like Wiener Schnitzel, whatever, like good German food, a little higher end. I opened the restaurant, and then we did the restaurant for 4 years, 4.5 years. I felt, oh, I want to do movies. I'm a
And
movie
you
maker.
missed
I
it,
want to
yeah.
go back. So I missed it. And then COVID came and we had got the shutdown. And then I shutted it down. I said, no, it's over. Like I will not reopen. Like I saw in a way, it will take longer as everybody saw. In the beginning of the shutdown, people thought 1 month we can reopen,
Sure.
you know? And I had the feeling that could be way longer. Like, we will maybe close the year or something. And then
Wow.
I felt like, no, I felt I want to go back to movies. Let's wrap that whole restaurant up. And that's what I did. And it was, in retrospective, very clever because a lot of people lost a lot of money during COVID and had a problem to reopen later, find the crew again. Hospitality is so in the toilet, basically, that I'm happy that I cut the losses basically short at that point and say, look,
Sure.
I'm not like staying here paying rent every month and hope for the best. So yeah, and then my plate was free basically. The sports bar I sold then.
Okay.
Also, what was good, that was the second thing we had. And then I felt, okay, now I have nothing to do. Now I go back to movies. That was basically my decision happened during the COVID times.
Okay. So you still like to this day reside in Canada though, instead of
No,
Germany?
we like my wife is from Vancouver, and we
Oh,
still
okay.
my son studies there at the university. So it's not like we're gone from Vancouver. We still kept our home, but we're living in Germany, and my other son goes here to school. So it's basically my wife, of course, goes more often visiting her mother and so on to Vancouver as me. So, but I'm going also 1, 2, 3 times a year, depending on the situation, So yeah.
Okay. Now you mentioned the revenue just wasn't there once the physical media kind of died out and the streaming services weren't paying that much. Has it improved now where they are starting to pay a little bit more for like independent films?
No, they still pay bad for independent films. That's crystal clear. But because most of it is time limited, Netflix, whatever, they give you 100K for a movie, but it's only 1 year then running in the US. And so you make other deals somewhere else. And you can relicense. You can, after a year, you can say, look, you want the movie again? I think so. I see now that the streamers and whatever they still don't pay really good, but you have more outlets, you have more revenue in total, especially if you go first in the pay windows, like where you get real money per view and not like just subscription or something. And I think there is at least now a little better chance that it slowly really replaces a video. But I think what the deal Ben Affleck got and Matt Damon, that they and the crew getting more money if something is successful, that's important. And I think that should actually uh, be a law almost. I had my New York first shift movie, like the cop movie. So Perma Plus bought it for like not a lot of money, and it was 20 weeks in the top 10. at Paramount
Wow.
Plus in the US and Canada. Yeah, but I don't get $1
You
more,
didn't
right?
get
So
any extra. So you
no.
want them to kind of almost have some sort of residual type model
Yes,
where it's like they give you X amount, but if you hit certain parameters and numbers, they should give you more.
yes. That would be fair to
That would
independent
be fair.
filmmakers because you have to see like the films they produce themselves, they throwing 50 million, 40 million, 30 million, 100 million on the table. And all the producers who get a Netflix original, for example, they are making all the money out of the budget already. They're like taking money off the top so that they don't get any more bonus points or whatever. That's maybe acceptable, but I think it's unacceptable if somebody makes a movie as a private investor or whatever, and then they say, okay, we give you 200K for that $2 million movie for 1 year. So, and then at least they should say, but if you make 5 million views, you get another 100,000. If you make 10 million views, you get another 100,000. So that you have at least a chance. Also, because if you are an independent filmmaker, you always have to convince investors. You have to find people also that give you money to make a movie. How are you going to convince them if you have nothing to show? Like to say, look, film is the best way to make out of $1 million 100,000. Like so.
That's a
Yeah,
hard pass.
yeah, exactly. But that's the thing. It's like, I mean, I know so many people that try hard and whatever, but they also they do projections based on the few movies who were super successful, right? If you go to investors and you say it will be the next Blair Witch Project, it will be the next Paranormal Investigation, it will be the next whatever, that's unrealistic. I think for investors it matters if they have, let's say, a 50-50 chance to make money, like real money, out of something. And that will only work if you get more money from the streamers. Also, for example, Amazon Prime or YouTube, that they pay you more from the advertising. You
Yeah,
know? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. On Prime, they give you 8 or 10 cents per view. So
Wow, that's nothing.
no, that's what I mean. Like how many that then if you have like 10 million views, you get 90 grand. You
That's
know,
a lot of views. Yeah, 90 grand.
Yes,
That's
that's
a
hard
fraction
to
of the
get,
budget.
right? They should
Yeah.
give you 20 cents because they make way more money on this as you. But Amazon is just nothing. They do nothing. You load the film up, you put the post up, you do it all yourself, basically, right? And then they still will get most of the revenues. And that's unfair for just an outlet where you load stuff up. They don't really promote your film. They don't do a lot. They promote only the films they produce themselves. Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. So, your film that was in the top 10, I believe you said for like 20 weeks on Paramount Plus. Now, of course, unfortunately, you weren't able to benefit hitting those high numbers because you just got your standard, here's X amount, right? Can
Yeah.
you at least leverage that, having been the filmmaker, say, hey, look, I sold you this film for X amount. We did these crazy numbers. Can you at least bargain with them on your next film, or do they not even?
Yeah. I mean, that's the reason I will send you a screenshot when during we're talking here. I That's why I did First Shift 2 and 3, where I hope that they will give me way more money for it based on this kind of success from the first one. The problem I had is I had actually people they from Paramount Plus they wanted to give me more money up front already, but
Okay.
they got all fired. I
Oh,
think
really?
that screenshot was all position.
That's not good.
So yeah, because when Skydance took Paramount, they exchanged most of the decision makers,
Oh,
and so the
wow.
people I dealt with were all gone. And so the new people finally came back to me when I actually shot the film and said, "Of course, we watch it right away when you have it, right." So we are in the post production now with the movies, and of course, I will send them the screening links, and I hope they make a good offer. And I mean, everything else as not paying good money for 2 and 3 based on the success of the first one. would be just completely unfair. It would be very unfair. And
Definitely.
and yeah, but I mean, we all know the business is not fair necessarily. You have
Oh,
like,
that's life. Yeah.
unfortunately, they could also say, who else would buy this? The first one is with us, like this kind of like uh coming in with a low ball offer and say, look, take it or leave it. All
Mm.
everything is possible. It really depends how they see you, what they want you, if they like you, if they want to help you, or they just want to, in a way, get good product for minimal money. So that's the thing. It's like that's overall, I think, very a lot of people in the business are losing jobs right now. A lot of crews losing jobs, and the people with that big contracts, they're making unbelievable amounts of money, and other people fall off the cliff. And I think that's the general tendency in the society we are in, right? When it was like this kind of like the rich get richer and the poor gets poorer, it was never more true as now when you look into the film industry. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So how do you typically raise financing outside the studio system? Are there certain people you're looking for, like guys in the real estate or doctors, or what kind of people do you approach typically that you find, you know what, maybe they're not going to make the most amount of money, but they like to take the gamble and they have a little fun with it. It's a different kind of investment.
Yeah, I mean, I had investors from earlier years, and a few are still coming back and invest. Then I have, for example, we released here. I wanted to do the sequel for House of the Dead, right? The Zombie Island thing. Then we did a crowdfunding. It didn't work, but then I got approached from, and it was in the Hollywood Reporter yesterday, from like 6 different production companies in Germany who say, if you shoot that here, we basically come in with all the crew, all the equipment, production office, post production, everything. So basically, Uwe come and direct for free, or invest this director fee, and you need to pay the actors, right? So,
Okay.
but the crew costs nothing. And so this we will shoot now in September. And
Okay.
I got the same actors back, Jonathan Sherry and Ona Grauer. They're coming then over and play here Castle of the Dead, right? So it's like House of the Dead. We do it in an actual castle, and so that's the one way. You have co-producers, they put work in. They put post-production services in or equipment and so on. That's the one way. The second is you get some cash investors who say, look, if you do that movie, I'm in with 50,000, I'm in with 100,000. And then, you're not getting like 10 million bucks together, but
Sure.
and then I use my own money, what comes in from my library from the I have a good company. They really turning my movies around, and um, so that money, I'm not like buying myself a Ferrari. Basically, I invest that right away back to movies and say, look, I want to do this. I'm investing a few $100,000 in this. Yeah, but of course, that will not continue forever if I don't get enough revenues back. Right. So it's
Sure.
like this kind of it has to be a payday at one point too. And other people say, then no, I'm not doing that anymore. So that's the situation now. And I mean, this year I didn't plan to shoot anything. The House of that thing came now out of the blue, based on I wanted to wait for First Shift 2 and 3, what will happen. And then I have in June 19 comes here the Army Hammer film I did, Citizen Vigilante. So that's action film. It's like a kind of a comeback from Army Hammer. Uh,
Okay.
and that comes with Quiver in like I think only in New York and LA in movie theaters and then in online. But that's a good movie. It's a hard movie, like Equalizer, John Wick style, like
Oh, I
where
love
he
those
goes
type of
out
movies.
there
Yeah. Nice.
and takes the law in his own hands. And so I'm very eager to see what this movie makes. And then I'm, of course, hoping that Paramount Plus gives me good money and says, let's do 8 episodes of First Shift.
Okay.
That's the plan to spin that over into from a trilogy movies into like maybe a TV series. So that would be good. So yeah.
Yeah, you got a very, very bright future here with, I mean, I'm definitely gonna check out that Army Hammer film and then the new House of the Dead. A lot to look forward to. Well, let me ask you this, because this is a big discussion in general, not just in the film world, but every career and job. Do you see AI as a threat? Do you see it like eventually replacing a film director or even actors, or do you see it more like, no, it's just going to be a tool people can use, but it's never going to completely replace us? Where do you see AI in the future?
Uh, I think it will replace some positions, right? So I don't think you need to, if you're a website designer, I think you're toast, right? So
You're done.
so there are some jobs they will be different, but there I agree a lot with what Ben Affleck. They have that AI company. He and Matt Damon, what Netflix bought, and he
Sure.
said it in an interview. He sees it more as it makes CGI, VFX faster, better, cheaper. And I see that too, but I don't think you can do, let's say we do the zombie movie. So if I have 10, 15 zombies attacking like five guys, right? If you don't shoot that real and the zombies are AI, but the actors are there, that doesn't work. It's all bullshit. Like you need like stunts or acting that has to work. But if you have like 500 zombies far away in the forest running around, that could be AI.
Oh, for sure.
But
Yeah.
like a replacement of a VFX shot in the old days. And that will be faster and cheaper, and it gets better and better and better so that you don't see the difference between real stuff. And there will be, of course, also a lot of people. They will make full AI movies, but I don't think the audience is willing to pay for this. I think the audience, if you have a movie completely done with AI, there are short movies completely done with AI already. In the very end, that movies are all on YouTube. They're
Sure.
not really on Netflix. And I think, yeah, we will have full movies made by AI, and it will be for some positions in the film business, they get less jobs or lose their job. But I think it will be basically an add on. What some people will do more and more. But look, I would have no interest to not physically shoot a movie with actors. None. Because then I would basically sit here where I'm sitting here right now and make my movie on my computer without any social contacts, right? So without any like discussions with an actor, driving to the set, having a camera guy. Uh, Everything could be done with AI, but then it's like random. And then it's just like this kind of, there will be maybe in 10 years, there are maybe 10 million AI movies, but the question is who watches this?
That's what I've always felt. There'll be like a glut of content, but where are you going to find the audience? And I'm with you. I'd rather watch real people, and I like this story and history behind certain actors, and I like to see them because when we're watching a film, I mean, even if somebody's a method actor, let's face it, the audience is still watching a certain person. They know that person's playing a character, and they could get lost in it and just see the character. But there's certain things that people like about certain actors that, regardless of how much you put yourself into the role, there's always going to be glimpses and hints of that individual person, which makes it quite unique.